over a period of time face erosion of trust. What builds the velocity of actions, velocity of business is the trust.
We have Dinkar Rao, business coach, with us. Welcome, Dinkar. What destroys a company over a period of time? We've seen so many companies, falling off their track, going completely away from their goals. So, what destroys a company over a period?
Great question, Smita. I think one of the biggest reasons I find some of the organizations who are doing very well also over a period of time face erosion of trust. And when the erosion of trust happens, people won't say it to each other. Even at a top level, it's not easy for anybody to say that, hey, I can't trust you anymore. It's very difficult for people to admit that they are feeling the erosion of trust. So I think erosion of trust is one thing which alters the speed at which the organization works. Because if we put physics into the picture of organization and what builds the velocity of actions, velocity of business is the trust. The moment people start trusting the organization, trusting the message which is coming from people, the speed is natural. But on the contrary, if people don't have trust with each other and the people across the leadership, people are overcautious about our own folks. When you're overcautious about our own folks, that erodes the brand value and all the organization. So that speeds down the growth.
So, when you see some red flags in the organization, which are towards what you just spoke, how do you enable them to turn things back into a good
There's
place?
a whole lot. I think I should write a book on that. But I think it's very, very important for a neutral entity like coach to be very clear about how to raise the red flag well in advance, how to give the bad news with a plan.
Okay.
Because you can't just go and there tell to the board who have hired you 2 months down the line that, hey, you have a problem with your leadership. You can't say that, but you need to go there, raise the red flag, and also possibly tell them what are the options. Again, the y-axis thinking, that x-axis says this is the problem and y-axis says how do we elevate ourselves. So it's important for a neutral coach, anyone who is representing organizational development program, to definitely give the bad news in advance. I can give an example of a multinational organization which is into FMCG though. 1.5 months down the line, I was closely working with the MD and I understood that the sales structure is fragmented. The kind of synergies are also fractured. And all this is happening because of the inexperience of the sales head. So I had to go and first of all understand why the sales head is not able to do what the person should be doing. I understood that they had a background. The person had a background of something very different than sales. Of course, the credibility was built because of his maybe exceptional marketing activities, but the person didn't know sales, in short. So I had to give this bad news that you are having a sales leader who doesn't know sales, and that's why people down the line are not able to trust.
And did you see a turnaround from there?
Absolutely. I think I was fortunate that the managing director was open to this idea, and that's where the Global Select activity started. Although I don't want to give names to it, but in short, strategic hiring, where we thought of, hey, who is the person whom we need to, who can win back the trust of the sales team, and we got the person.
Wonderful.
There are also cases where we didn't find the person, so somebody from the top management became the de facto sales head, which means that, okay, till the captain arrives, I'm the captain. So that kind of changes, which are very, very structural and strategic, happens pretty early in an engagement. Because you can't give delayed bad news. If there is a bad news, to definitely with logical evidence, give a framework why this is a bad news, why this is not a perception. And when you share that, people agree.
Okay.
Generally, people are open.
How do you measure trust inside an organization?
Okay, trust, if I give you a very solid evidence of how in the Western context also, which is widely followed in India, how trust can be measured is going back to the David Maister's equation, trust equation, which is T equal to CRI divided by S.
Oh.
It's a very interesting book and I'm just giving one extract.
Okay.
Trust, T stands for trust, C stands for credibility.
Okay.
And David Maister defines credibility as knowledge, the domain of words. So people will believe a leader who is a subject matter expert. You can see that in IT. You have worked
Yes.
in IT. I've worked across IT, non-IT, other sectors. I've found that leaders who have got good domain knowledge, instant connect, very good logical connect. The second part is that I've also seen people who are very good in subject matter, but they are not reliable. Their actions.
Oh my God.
Suddenly, you will see that they are not responsive to burning issues.
Mm-hmm.
They are not available for a conversation.
Oh God, yeah.
These things are very natural. But then there are people, again, exceptional leaders are those who not only work on subject matter, but they also work on their own reliability engineering. That means, am I reliable? Am I coming across as a reliable leader to my own team? For example, simple things, my messages are answered, mails are taken care, nothing is pending in the inbox. So they're very organized. I used to work for a CEO of a microfinance organization. He told me, Dinkar, my inbox is cleared every night. Not a single mail unreplied. That is his policy to build reliability. Which means not that he will answer. If the answer is not there, he'll say, okay, I'll get back to you by so-and-so date. Now, a leader who builds that kind of a narrative also expects others to behave that way. That becomes culture, which is the glue. So reliability, going back to David Maister. Credibility, subject matter knowledge. Reliability, actions which are predictable, and intimacy, which is very, very critical. And intimacy means, am I emotionally connected to the people with whom I am working? For example, certain questions, when we are in a cafeteria, say, hey, how is your wife, how is your son, how is your husband? And having those chai coffee walks on the corridors, sipping a cup of coffee or evening, having a good dinner, and exchanging a lot of things beyond business. That is one way of looking at intimacy. The other is, how do I understand the unspoken needs of the team? Just by entering into the room, I understand what is happening there. That's intimacy.
Does that call for empathy?
High level of, highly processed, very fine level of empathy where you can intuitively figure out what's going on. That's the deepest level of flow. Not many leaders have that. So look at the dilemma that somebody who's credible with subject matter knowledge, somebody is reliable because of action orientation, still may not be effective. When it comes to generation of trust because of lack of empathy. You're good in subject matter, you're highly task oriented, but something is missing. That's I of David Maister. This is how I understand his equation. But then the last part, which is in the denominator, is S. And David Maister beautifully says S is self-orientation, which means that if I'm building credibility, reliability, and intimacy with a self-goal, self-orientation, then the trust will be depleting. For example, if I donate to an NGO just to show off that we did a CSR activity, is a self-oriented activity where you are trying to do something. I'm not saying that we should not do donations. We should do donations, but if that is the only objective to create a narrative that we are great, it doesn't create trust in the ecosystem. For example, as a sales leader, if I do things to just show off that I am knowledgeable, reliable, and very emotionally connected, people will understand it. Very clever. They are very clever. They over a period of time understand that he's nice, great, but too much of an I man.
Oh. Okay.
And then when the self-orientation is high, you might be effective, but the trust comes down. So as per the model of David Maister, I think trust requires CRI on the higher side, I on the self-orientation on the lower side. You cannot be selfless in life, but you need to understand, is it coming always from selfishness? But if they say, okay, I'm a follower, and selfishness is a virtue, then that's also right. But then how are you making that selfishness also for a larger cause?
Yeah.
Appealing
Not
to a
for the
larger
self.
cause. Exactly. But in the Indian context, trust is very simple. Can I believe you? When you're talking, can I feel something very, very authentic coming out? Right? So Indians are very feeling-oriented people. They go by words, but they also judge others on the feelings they're getting. And they are unspoken. So for a person who is...
They viscerally sense what's going on.
Absolutely. The person has to really sense, am I creating trust in my stakeholders? Wherever I am, whichever position.